Hello, everyone, and welcome to, oh my gosh, it's February already. February 2025 NJBIA Business Growth Roundtable. Let me bring to the stage and introduce you to Anthony Arena, who's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on at NJBIA. Take it away, Anthony.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone. Everybody coming off that Super Bowl weekend. Hope you all enjoyed it. Here at NJBIA, we help, with this amazing team create some great initiatives. And for those of you who are new to NJBIA, we are the nation's largest statewide business association, representing about a quarter of all New Jersey employees. We do offer custom development opportunities with visibility through our magazine ads, our podcast, our television show, and along with other money-saving discounts on your business needs, such as payroll, 401k, healthcare, training, and also 24-hour HR support. I'm Anthony Arena, one of the executives here at NJBIA. And if you'd like to get more information, I will put my contact information in the chat. And just to let you know about some upcoming events, we have our leadership training series continuing on February 18th at 9 a.m. It's virtual. It's going to be leading with emotional intelligence influence. And then we have another virtual event on February 27th, and that's going to be mindful business. And this is going to be helping to offer solutions relating to stress, mental health, and wellness in the workplace. So we're going to have some great speakers on that as well. So please, for more information, check out njbia.org. And now I will turn it over to the iconic Donna Miller.
Ooh, iconic. That's a new one.
Like that, right?
Digging that, Anthony. Thank you.
You got it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Miller, founder and chief visionary officer at C3 Workplace and Donna Miller Business Growth Consulting, where for the last 30 years, I've helped thousands of companies to accelerate their growth. We love what we do. And really what we do is we build efficient, connected systems that are a platform to help your business grow. And people come to us because they know that we're going to build these integrated, efficient processes and systems administratively around your operations, biz dev, and finances. And those systems are going to be something that you can execute on, or not only can we help you identify the problems, but we help you solve the problems. We can do the work if you want us to. So in any case, like I said, we build systems that help companies scale their growth. We're happy to talk more. I'll drop my info. Not that you don't get 42,000 emails from me on a regular basis, but I will drop my info in the chat in case you actually need it. And we are delighted to be here with you every month for the New Jersey Business and Industry Association Business Growth Roundtable. Before we jump into our fabulous content that we have today, a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, this is being recorded, so you won't have to take copious notes. You will get a link to the recording. Second of all, we will allow some time for Rachel and Cal to do some live Q&A at the end. I want to ask you to use the Q&A segment on the Zoom and not the chat, because we tend to have a large group and it gets a little unwieldy. That said, I do want you to introduce yourself into the chat, because you are in a room with a whole bunch of other people who are interested in learning what you're interested in learning about. That's a great starting point for networking. So do some virtual networking if you can while we're in the meeting. And last but not least, you can't pull off an event like this. And are we in year 4 or 5, Rachel?
I think 4.
Okay. 4 years running.
Maybe 5.
I think we might be in 5.
Oh, no. Yes, we're in 5.
I know. It's crazy. You can't do something like this without a lot of help from other people. C3 Workplace, C3 stands for Connect, Collaborate, Community. This is where I live. It's what I breathe. So I want to thank our sponsors. First of all, of course, I appreciate the partnership with NJBIA. But one of our partners is Summit Place Financial Advisors, who offer individual attention to a select group of highly successful people who have outgrown some of the mass market offerings out there. We know, many of you know, success brings complex investment, tax, and estate planning challenges. Nobody wants to think about this, but we really should be. Summit Place offers experienced, personalized, and disciplined guidance to help you achieve your financial goals and simplify your wealth opportunistically. Ooh, that's a good one. They collaborate with trusted professionals. In other words, if they don't have it, they have somebody who can get it for you. Of course, Summit Place is SEC registered. They do not sell products, earn commissions, or have quotas to meet. They work solely in your best interest with no hidden fees or agenda. Come on, how great is that? And we also have Mark Shore from Atlas Consulting Services, who provide full service insurance brokerage specializing in sophisticated and multifaceted employee benefit programs, including health, dental, vision, life, disability, retirement, and more. I imagine with our remote workforces, our benefits have, as they go national, do create more complex problems. That might be something I imagine that Mark can help you with. They handle all aspects of employee-sponsored benefits, from plan implementation to communication, enrollment, regulatory monitoring, and complying with all the necessary laws. They are a trusted partner to many of the region's most professional and prestigious companies, law firms, hedge funds, as well as small to large businesses from Main Street to Wall Street. So, financial services, reach out to Summit. You can drop something in the chat and I'm sure they'll chime in. And if you're looking for benefit solutions, talk to Mark. So with that, let me hand it over to my co-host and co-conspirator, Rachel Durkin from Paradigm Marketing.
Thank you, Donna.
Take
Donna,
it
before I
away.
forget, can you make me a co-host so I can run polls in a little bit?
Oh, sure.
All right. All right, everyone. I am so excited about today. Cal, I'm going to ask you to come on and fight with me. I mean, work with me as my sales counterpart in this presentation today. So thank you all for coming. And my name is Rachel Durkin. I'm with Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are a web branding, marketing, and sales enablement agency that specializes in working with clients with a complex sale. So we work with people like Cal. If your company requires a human interaction to close a deal, we increase the productivity of that sales team, decrease the number of meetings that they need to have, and the quality of leads that they're getting so that they can ultimately reach a better conversion rate. Cal, please introduce yourself today.
I will, and to put a little levity into this, and everybody, if Rachel and I banter a little bit, it's all in fun. We get along well. We share a bunch of clients. So my company is Sandler Training. We've had the great fortune to work with all the people actually on the screen. And at our core, we are a sales and leadership strategy and training company. And the people we work with are, like most of you out there, pretty successful, and they want to up their game. They're worried they're not getting in front of enough of the right people at the right levels. We saw that in some of the comments. Others, they're really concerned. They're getting a little freaked out about their sales cycles and their inability to get people to make decisions. And on the leadership side, I don't know if anyone's done any hiring lately, but we're finding, or they're telling us, that sometimes people's skills aren't maybe up to par to be able to keep that talent that they're going after a place. So we're going to have some fun here. And Rachel, you take it. I'll stand.
All right. I'm going to attempt to control technology. Let's see how this goes. All right. So we already did this part and introduced ourselves. But Cal, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what it takes to close a deal?
So I think this is always funny, right? Salespeople traditionally, not necessarily, they're kind of rah-rah, and they said, I closed this deal, I did this stuff. And what really, and I think my marketing genius is also on the call, what really happens behind the scenes is a lot of marketing work. And Rachel, I think you say 14 to 19 touches of some sort have to happen. Well, nobody sees that stuff. So it takes a whole, I don't want to say it takes a village, but it takes at least a small village to be able to close deals. And we'll get into all the meat behind that.
That's great. And so why does alignment matter? What I have seen, and I'm sure Cal will say the same over and over again, is that when you have a complex sale, which means it requires a human interaction to close the deal, if marketing and sales don't work together, there's significant decrease in ROI and a lot of lost revenue. We worked with a company recently, Cal and I shared this client, and over 3 years, their revenue tripled in hypergrowth because sales and marketing were working in lockstep. And when I say lockstep, we were communicating every day. We were meeting every few days. We were having strategy calls every week and every month. So it's really important that when sales and marketing work together effectively and they're all on the same page and it's a team environment instead of a pointing fingers environment, you can have a great impact. Now, I'm sure we've all felt that pointing fingers environment as well. And that often happens when marketing and sales are not aligned, because while we're all working towards the same goal, we have different beliefs in how we approach that goal. So making sure that we're aligning our beliefs and understanding one another is critical to the success of that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because a little anecdote from what Rachel was sharing is the CEO of the company used to call me and say, do you and Rachel have this some kind of ESP going back and forth because you're speaking the same language to me all the time? Well, we
Mhm.
didn't. We had phone calls and video calls, and we them in line and kept it aligned. Here's a stat from the Sandler Research Center that it's not quite half. So pretend we were in a room, look to your left and look to your right, and only one of the three of you, or actually one of two of you, actually have made really any attempt at establishing the ideal customer profile. Now, it's usually marketing's fault that they don't understand that, of course. But do we really agree on who it is we want to target? What is the market? Who are the people, the personas, as we talk about? Do we really know that? And I find it, I test my clients all the time, and they just often aren't clear on that together.
Mhm. Yeah. And so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about issues that misalignment causes. We're going to talk about the difference between the dynamics of the team frustration, because we have to kind of call out the elephant in the room. What happens what are the results when teams are actually in alignment? And then more importantly, how do we get to alignment? That's going to be the bulk of what we talk about today. So when I'm starting, I want to talk about the challenges of misalignment. Billions and billions of dollars every year are lost because marketing and sales can't work together. I can give you an example of this. Marketing believes that we are producing appropriate qualified leads to the sales team. The sales team then, and we can see this, and we're going to talk about the importance of technology a little bit later in this presentation, but we'll be able to see, okay, we've got leads into the CRM and what we think we agreed to, you know, they're moving from marketing qualified leads to sales qualified leads. I'll talk more about that later too. And then they just sit in the CRM and the sales team doesn't do anything with them because the timing's not right, or it's sort of a cold call, even though we've got all this data on the quality of the lead. Or they'll say it's not the right time, or they're not giving a feedback loop. Maybe it really is a bad lead, but they're not selling marketing why it's a bad lead. So there's a huge frustration in misalignment between marketing and sales that can cause billions of dollars lost, lots of leads lost, lots of wasted time, and a huge amount of lost revenue. So Cal, what do you see here?
Pretty similar. And I don't want to misalign or malign salespeople, but I'll give an example from that client we were speaking about. I got a call from one of their sales leaders, not a terribly strong sales leader, and said, the leads for this segment targeted, but Rachel's team, they're just not cutting it. They're not good leads. I said, all right, fair enough. I know he's wrong. Fair enough. Let's go through. And
Because I called you complaining earlier about how I was frustrated that they felt wrong. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cal.
So we got on, this was a relatively new salesperson. So I actually got on the call, a couple of calls with the prospect. They were perfectly fine. Now, sometimes the sales folks, depending on the origin, they're not willing to pick up that 300-pound phone, make the call when it's appropriate in the process, and ask the hard questions and figure out if they're qualified or disqualified. That, in my belief, that's the job of the salesperson. A lot of people sit there waiting aggressively for the phone to ring and for the marketing leads to come in and close themselves. And I've yet to see that happen.
And that, another client that we've shared, I've seen that before too, where there's a disconnect between what is considered a qualified lead. So marketing will see a qualified lead as someone who hits all the touch points that we feel we agreed to. And that, yes, a phone call or an interaction or an instance by a salesperson requires the next step, but the sales team might not consider the lead qualified until they're actually calling and saying, hey, can I buy something from you? And that is a huge misalignment point that often happens.
It is. And there's a lot of head trash out there about what different sales teams believe is truly their role. And, what we find is to get this, and we may get to this later, but it takes a senior person in the organization to put them together. I don't want to say force them together. Sometimes that's what's required. And I know we have a couple of clients on, and they're rolling their eyes and yelling at me right now. We have seen anecdotally, and I've tested some of these stats because I don't, 87% of statistics are made up. But I do know, and we do see a huge increase in revenue when we've got the same message. And I'll show you one of my personal examples. But yet, a huge percentage of them they don't close because something happened in the middle of that handoff.
Okay, so I'm going to ask my first poll question. So Donna, this is a flag to you to bring up the poll since we're having technical difficulties. But are your marketing and sales team aligned? I'm really curious what everybody on this call is going to say. Hopefully Donna's doing it. She did it.
Beautiful.
See, Donna and I
Team
are
of
aligned.
True professionals.
This is the part that scares me the most, the poll questions.
It says hosts and panelists cannot vote though. Do you have to do something?
Well, we'll skew
You
the
can't.
numbers.
You can't. vote.
Oh, I can't vote. All right, never mind. I'm going to shut up. It's going great.
Looks like
I'm
a
gonna-
solid sort of.
I like it. All right.
All right. Okay, I'm going to close that out. You got it?
Yep.
All right.
Yep, there we go. Can you all see these results? So, okay, we got, as Donna said, we got a solid sort of. Some, and I'm proud of you for admitting the problem. That's the first step. Say we're not aligned at all. And then some, yes, we're in lockstep. And that's awesome to hear. And I'm willing to bet that those in lockstep are incredibly productive when it comes to generating revenue over time.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's a higher number than I expected. This is a smart crew.
It's really great. So let me tell you why us marketers get incredibly frustrated when sales and marketing are not aligned. Why we want to grab those people like Cal and shake them really hard by their collar. So I mentioned this one first, is a disconnection in what is considered a qualified lead. In marketing, you're going to hear me use the term a couple times, MQL versus SQL. An MQL is a marketing qualified lead. So when we're setting up that touch process, and Cal mentioned, the number of touches, studies show based on the industry, you need somewhere between 9 and 14, that number is continuing to go up, touches or engagements to build trust in a brand. This means that if marketing can facilitate that awareness and trust in a meaningful way in a short amount of time, if it gets to the salesperson after, let's say, 10 touches, the salesperson has less work to do. And so we want to use technology to set up things like marketing automation, and that can really make a sales team impactful. However, if there's a disconnect on what a qualified lead is, the sales team is expecting phone calls that they get to filter. I'm expecting follow-up when I see that a lead is hot in the system. When there's not a feedback loop, well, is this person's not qualified? Okay, but why? Well, the timing wasn't right. Well, that doesn't mean they weren't qualified. That just means the timing wasn't right and we need to nurture them longer. So a major disconnect comes from unclear expectations and a misalignment of communication on what is low quality, what is what is a qualified lead. The biggest challenge that I see is in really dysfunctional teams is finger pointing. And I've seen this over and over again. When you turn up the heat, when the pressure comes on, people get mean. I hate to say it, but it happens. Everyone gets a little bit mean. Money becomes a problem. Leadership's breathing down your neck. You're worried about your job. You're worried about your team. Sales says the leads are down. Marketing sucks. Marketing says sales isn't following up, and there's finger pointing happening. If that is a culture in the organization in general, it will bleed into the marketing and sales team first. And it is the most dangerous because it is easiest to put blame. It's like two developers or two technicians putting blame on each other. It's the same thing, right? And I can say that because we do web development as well. So it is so important that these teams work together in lockstep, and they are a united front when going to the rest of the company on what goals and vision are. Cal, what do you sales see in frustration? Like, what are you guys frustrated about?
And we're pretty much always right. So that's what's really important.
I'm gonna throw the bullshit flag on that one, but
I know.
okay.
No, but Rachel, you're exactly right. All those things are true, and this is just the inverse. We have a great client. Actually, you work with them as well. It's a technology client, pretty good
Mhm.
size. Their COO happens to be in our leadership forum, and she has been a genius in facilitating the marketing and the sales teams and the technical folks at least once a month together, because there can't be. And she calls, we're being recorded. She calls crap on those arguments.
Mhm.
Right? Do they not match the profile? Often the sales team is to blame and they get frustrated. Well, you are holding me to this profile, but I can sell this. We don't want to sell that. That's not good. But I don't need, right. So how do we make sure we're all on the same page? And this is one of my pet peeves, Rachel. And I think we mostly agree on this, but not you guys, but some marketing teams, they insist on, they create this beautiful pitch.
Mhm.
One of my least favorite terms in sales is pitch. We need to go and asking questions. We may talk about pain later. But if I go in and hit somebody, well, all this marketing, sorry, fluff, all this marketing stuff, and it doesn't meet what they really want, that's not a good process to follow. And that's certainly, we're pretty aligned on that when we work together. We need to go in and have an adult to adult conversation, not pitch them a bunch of stuff that maybe they don't care about.
I'm 100. I mean, my entire team Sandler trained. I'm Sandler trained. When our clients ask for a pitch deck, I say the same thing. That is not the right time. Now, there's certainly a time for marketing and outlining what you do, but a pitch deck, I'm not a big fan. So we try to avoid those as well. So what is the root cause of some of this misalignment? What I've seen is that disconnection between what I mentioned, MQLs and SQLs, not defining what is a qualified lead and where in the process. Having disconnected KPIs or key performance indicators. Every team, when I set up a sales marketing to sales infrastructure for a client, because that's a lot of what we do, we talk about, okay, we're going to map out 20 touches that are happening from using marketing automation and different in sales and in traditional marketing and different strategies. What is marketing's job here and what is sales jobs here? So for example, if sales KPIs are, I need to have 10 meetings a week with qualified leads, and I need to turn 50% of those into discovery meetings, and then I need to turn 25% of those into new clients. Well, then if sales needs 50 leads, 50 meetings, how many leads do they need? I messed this up. If sales need 10 meetings a week, how many leads do they have to call or reach out to or connect with on a weekly basis in order to get those numbers? So backing into sales KPIs and then transitioning into marketing. Okay, if sales needs to have this many calls, then I need to have this many qualified leads in the database every week. And in order to get this many qualified leads in the database, how am I going to fill the funnel? And in order to fill the funnel, what are the activities I'm going to execute? So the KPIs for marketing and sales are seamless. And they need to be agreed upon across the board, and of course adjusted across the board, because the world is constantly changing. But marketing not knowing what sales KPIs are and sales not knowing what marketing's KPIs are a major problem. Not only that, if those KPIs are not reviewed weekly and adjusted appropriately as a team, that's a huge problem. Having separate tools and data system, guys. I work with a multi-billion-dollar company who has a CRM that only the sales team has access to. The marketing team doesn't have access to it. And it's a major, major inhibitor in their revenue growth. And so it's something that they're looking into. But I mean, I've seen this on $70 million companies. I've seen this on $10 billion companies. The systems need to work together, and everyone needs a central source of truth that they are using effectively. We talked about the importance of communication. That is a big detriment if it's not happening. And then mutual accountability. So the culture really matters. Now, I'm not a culture expert. I'm not going to talk about culture today, but this is the thing that's going to rear its ugly head first in your organization, in my opinion, when your culture is misaligned. These two teams have to be best friends, not frenemies or worst enemies. And that's really important. And then these teams, when there's a problem with misalignment, are not looking at KPIs weekly and talking daily. So that is, if these things are happening, even 2 or 3 of these are happening in your organization, we've got a misalignment problem. So, I got thrown off track. What slide am I on, Cal? 14. Okay, so the next thing that I want to go over is, what are the solutions? So the stuff you've all been waiting for. Here's the problem. How do we get to a solution? So first, establish a shared vision. It is so important that everybody is aligned in the same way. You want to start with having a collaborative outline of what Cal's going to call it the buyer persona, right, Cal? I'm going to call it an audience matrix, right? So Vicky's my partner in crime who's going to come on later, but can you drop in the audience matrix worksheet that we have for everybody in the chat so that they can share it? So an audience matrix / buyer persona, two things that Cal and I call them different things, they're the same thing. This is where the teams get together and together align on who your target audience is, what their pain points are. So sales, Cal, I don't want to put words in your mouth, is going to care, what are their pain points? Where are they? How do they get communicated? What objections are they going to have? I'm going to care about, how are they going to perceive information? How are they going to capture information? What's the easiest way to gain access to them at a high level? What are the differences in their buying decision process? And what I mean by that is, what I think I need at this top of the buying funnel is not necessarily, from a marketing standpoint, what I need. For example, at Paradigm, if you come to me and say, I need social media marketing. People come to me all the time and say, I need social media marketing. And then when I speak to them, I find out, well, I need to grow my revenue. That's really what I need. But I'm going to do it through social media marketing. And I really believe in and of itself, social media marketing in a B2B environment is not going to produce a direct return on investment. Social media is one of the strongest tools in your arsenal. It is not the only tool in your arsenal to get to the end result you want. But a lot of our prospects, when they come to us initially, think they come to us searching for social media marketing. So
Right,
the
the
top
problem
of
they come with is never the real problem.
exactly. So at the top of my buying funnel, the top of my website, you're going to see social media marketing. And then I'm going to educate them through the touch process on the importance of social media marketing with other things. And so in this audience matrix, marketing is trying to understand the decision process along buying behaviors as your customer research is. Sales is going to care more about objections and the conversation piece. So the message is going to be slightly different. This needs to be mapped out together so that the team understands it. We want to make sure also that we're aligned on messaging. So Vicky, I'm also going to ask you to drop the white paper on messaging on how to create effective messaging strategies in the chat. But messaging is about creating a document that is a center source of truth that articulates your value proposition in a way that resonates with your target audience. It is your brand promise. It is I always say it's the promise that marketing and sales makes that operations has to keep. Everyone has to be on the same page for that. So the step one is sit down in a room. This is going to take you several days and outline these documents. And then it becomes stamp of approval. It should be reviewed every 6 months together as a team to see if anything is changing, maybe even sooner if the industry calls for it. But everyone has to be bought into this. It is critical and it is the first step to success. So
Yeah.
where do we start? I'm sorry, Hal, go ahead. I'm talking for you. I get excited.
That's good. And we speak the same language, so that's even
Mhm.
more exciting. But I love that you said earlier to get to the truth, right? Our job in sales, we need to get to the truth for the people in our funnel. So for me, Rachel, as you know, just find someone who's in my profile that's probably willing to have a conversation. I got it from there. We know how to ask questions. We know how to get to the truth. So if I told you, would you think I was crazy if probably I get 10 phone calls a month and said, my salespeople need presentation skills training. And I said, well, that's fantastic. Do you do that? Well, sure. Tell me a little more. But really what they need is they need to learn to ask better questions. They need to identify pain. They need to throw away their pitch decks.
Mhm.
And another thing I love that helps that you kind of inferred is we have a surprising number of marketing people with their teams in our essentials program. All of your team certainly has done it. You've sent marketing people there because that really helps them align with the process with the sales team. So that helps them keep on the same page as well.
And it's also, what you just said is if marketing and sales aren't aligned, and I, as a marketer, came to you and said, Cal, I created a white paper on how to create pitch decks. And you weren't as educated as you are, Cal. You'd say, why the heck did you do that? We don't offer pitch decks training. But when we're together, I say, well, that's an in, and then we nurture them and educate them. That pitch decks isn't exactly what they need, or it's part of what they need. So when marketing and sales get aligned, you understand the crazy, the logic behind the crazy, right? And so that's why you guys need to work together. We all need to work together to get there.
Now, I'd love to talk to someone who wants to talk about pitch decks all day long. We won't be doing them, but we will then understand what the real problem is because they don't necessarily know it.
Yeah. So Don, I've got another poll for you. Oh, look at her. She's already up.
I'm a pro now.
You are a pro.
She's
Does your
the analytical
organization have an
leader.
ideal client profile that everyone is bought into?
And I'll urge you to tell the truth because you are anonymous out there.
Yeah.
And when you say organization, I suspect that does not mean me personally or them personally. It's we've all gotten together and agree with it.
Mm-hmm. Including
Well,
operations, especially in a sales model. Like there's not, Caitlin, who's our account group supervisor who runs our marketing department. If her and I or her and Vicky are not aligned, like the clients aren't going to stay. We have to deliver what we promise, right? All right. So this is like right down the middle pretty much. So most don't have one. That's okay. I believe that you should see that I walk into publicly traded companies that don't have one or haven't done one in 5 years. So it is not uncommon. Some are totally aligned, some are sort of. I can respect that. Okay, so Cal, take it away.
Yeah, so here's a great trap exercise. I think you do it, I do it all the time, especially early on. So all of you within your own organizations, you don't have to tell anybody you're doing this, but you can go into a sales and marketing together meeting and say, write down our ideal client profile, write down a couple of these things, and you will find immediately that they have different ideas. So I'll credit my marketing person, Susan, with some of these. We're not going to go in great depth about this, I promise. This is another conversation for sure. So I'm going to rip through these. I would take a screenshot or a photo of this. You may not do all of these, but the first thing is, are we aligned? Do we have a process? Do we have techniques? Do we have the same mindset and the same picture of what we want to accomplish? And I've got to take my quota out. I've got to take my marketing ego out. Oops, did I say that? I have to take a lot of these other things out of that picture to get to the truth and the goals of the company. As Rachel talked about a number of times, are we measuring things, or do we have visibility through each other's metrics? Do we have the same metrics? We probably do. One client, they have a metric of number of marketing and sales alignment meetings every month.
I like that. It's a good one.
And they're not hitting it.
At least they have it.
At least they have it, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we communicate, and there's a lot of training. So what I have found in the example we gave earlier is the leads that were coming in were certainly marketing qualified. But the salesperson, as we figured out, didn't really have the skills to take that conversation to the next level. So sometimes it's a skills problem. We need help with our skills to do that. And then, again, Rachel mentioned this earlier, let's get the feedback back and forth between the two teams. So keep going to have a continuous improvement loop. Because we all make mistakes. And sometimes, you know, the word is pivot, we need to change. Maybe market conditions have changed. Maybe we're going after a different vertical.
Yeah. All right. So another step that we want to take in order to create alignment is define process and expectations. Friends, it is so important to have a CRM. I just had a meeting with a 200-person company. They are using Excel spreadsheets to document their sales process and who their leads are. So first of all, sales team members are stepping on each other's toes, but more importantly, having a CRM allows for marketing automation. You can leverage AI and technology. You can get information about the behaviors and the wants and needs from your audience. But the most critical tool is the ability to measure KPIs and for us to all sit down at that weekly meeting together and say, here's the marketing leads in the database. Here's the sales qualified leads in the database. Here's the KPIs for the week. Here's what each team member hit. And that meeting can be 5 minutes because we all know where we are. And if we see an issue in the data, we can talk about it. If we don't, we can move on and all go on our merry way. So it's not enough. So step one, if you don't have a CRM, you can implement, Donna can talk to you about it. You can implement something small like Zoho for a pretty affordable price, a couple $1,000s, and just get it set up and start using it. That going from nothing to something, you will see critical improvement if you're using it properly in your marketing and sales alignment and success. The next step is then to work with a marketing or sales partner that's going to help set up the touch process for MQL to SQL. But step one is just set it up, and it doesn't have to be that much money. So Donna, I hope you're talking in the chat about how it can work, but you can start with something basic. Zoho's a great start if you don't have something. Salesforce is like, you can do pretty much anything you want with it, but implement a CRM. The ultimate goal in my mind is setting up that MQL to SQL process and leverage lead scoring. So Vicki, if you want to put our lead scoring white paper in the chat, that would be great. Lead scoring is the process in which we can score our leads based on the interaction that they have with our content, based on their behaviors, based on their title, based on the viability of their pain or need for our service. And as a team, we would agree on a certain lead score that when they hit 100, for example, because all of these interactions added up, that is when the sales team should start looking at them. That is an indicator to me that they are engaged in our content and have a need for a solution that we provide. So setting up lead scoring is a great way, once you have a CRM, to start automating creating marketing automation that drives alerts to the sales team. Like, hey, this person has opened all this content, came to these events, clearly has this problem. Now is the time to reach out to them. And so that to me is like, the holy grail of having that marketing to sales infrastructure. But step one, get a CRM. Step 4 is lead scoring, but we can, there's a way to get there over time slowly. And the whole time you're doing it, you're going to see revenue growth as a result of setting up that infrastructure. Okay. The next thing is improve communications. You heard me harping on this. Giving constant feedback loops on why a lead wasn't qualified, because, coming into having Cal say, well, the person maybe didn't have the skills. That's a huge gap that doesn't usually get identified. Huge gap that I see. And that's actually one of the major frustrations. I'm not saying marketing is always perfect. We do create sometimes leads that are ineffective, but if we don't have the feedback loop to why they're ineffective, we can improve. So having that open dialogue to, okay, we had 10 leads come in, 8 of them were not good. Great. Why were they not good? We can even then, once we have a CRM, go back so far as to map, okay, of the 10 leads that came in, 3 came from here, 4 came from here, 2 came from here. The 2 that came from here were incredibly qualified. Let's put more money into this campaign, more effort into this campaign. So being able to use your CRM to understand the feedback loop, get the feedback loop, and then understand the journey they went through that caused a qualified lead to get through is really important to improving the infrastructure. So that improved collaboration is really important to fine-tuning the success of the overall strategy.
Yeah, I love that the collaboration. One of the things I will frequently do is make sure that some of the marketing folks are sitting in on sales meetings in addition to the
I
sales.
love that.
They
Yeah.
get in. Now, Rachel, they don't get to talk. They don't talk
Oh,
about
I don't like that.
but they need to be in there because they come out with these great ahas.
Mhm.
And I'm going to toss out another tool. I happen to use an AI recording tool. It's called Fathom. It's actually customized for Sandler. So you can put the Sandler process in there. It's crazy. And I bring that up because when marketing has access and sales have access both to the CRM, marketing can go in and see the recording of that actual call. And they can see wanting and rapport, they can see pain, they can have some budget conversation. It's all laid out in there. And it blows the minds of some of the marketing associates and marketing directors that are involved in that communication with the sales team. So food for thought.
And collaboration is so important to when you're just starting, talking and setting KPIs, to when the infrastructure is truly set up, because we have to make sure the machine keeps running and it's running as effectively and efficiently as possible. So my next poll question, Donna, is do you have a defined and repeatable sales process that the sales team can follow? Something like lead scoring. Or maybe it's more informal.
Okay.
Or the sales team takes certain steps, right? I have this conversation and ask these questions. Then we send them a quick 20-second video. Then the next thing happens. And then we ask these questions or those, and everybody should be doing the same process.
I know you wrote these questions, Rachel, and I love that almost a third. It's almost like a Wild West over here. I'm going to share this now.
All right, again, down the middle. I like the breakup of the audience today.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a good group today.
Can you watch? I've been watching like 1883 from Yellowstone. I'm all about the Wild West now. Okay.
I get it. All right. So
All
that is
right.
your poll.
Thank you, Donna. All right. So aligning tools and data. You heard me preach already about the CRM, so I'm gonna be quiet. But we will, well, I'm not gonna be quiet, that's a lie. But we want to also make sure that that CRM has dashboards set up to measure the different approaches that we're taking when it comes to sales. So we talked about the KPIs that we want to measure, absolutely. But what else do we want to be measuring effectively to ensure that we are getting the results we want? What is the time? So a couple things I consider. What is the time to close a deal? 6 months, 3 months, 4 months? Is it? And then also, is there a correlation between prospect source and time to close? Is there a correlation between prospect source and the size of the deal? We want to start measuring those things. And I know Cal's going to talk about size of deals in a second. How many meetings are in the pipeline? What type of sales are being closed? So Cal, I'm going to ask you to talk about the care model next, but that's something that we're constantly measuring. Are we closing upsells more effectively? Usually we are. There's a better closing rate and lower cost of sales for upsells and cross sells. Are we bringing in new clients? Are we expanding? is that being measured in our tools? So Cal, why don't you talk to us about what the care model is so that people know how to integrate it into their technology?
Yeah, and I love the source to time to close and size. Because here's what you don't want to hear out there, whether you're the owner, whether you're the salesperson, the marketing person, the biggest and the largest and the most fastest deals are done by introductions. Referrals, introductions. If Rachel refers me to one of her clients, I just have to show up and listen mostly, and vice versa. If I've got to go make 25 phone calls, it's a different story. So we need to get comfortable with different behaviors. So I believe that there are 4 categories of our prospects or our clients. Those that we want to keep. By the way, that's not all of them. And if it is all of them, then you didn't need to come here because you're perfectly aligned. So stick around. Attain, the brand new ones we want to go get. I have a client, they call that net new logos. Expand is a great one. Who do we have and what are the things that they buy from us, our goods or services that we do for them that we're not doing for them? We want to be doing the marketing, we want to be doing their social media, we want to be doing all of those things. I want people in the management, I want them in the leadership, I want them in the essential, and all of that and doing disc things. So that's the expand, and those are easier. And recapture, what are some that went away? And now that I've got better ideas, I'm more aligned, do we go chase after that? Now, there are specific behaviors, and it's and we call them a cookbook, but there are marketing behaviors that I want to drip on some of my keep clients because I need to have some resources and say, hey, Susan or Rachel, these guys are really struggling with getting pain. Can you send them an advanced video on digging for pain? Great. Oh, Cal, that was so timely. How did you know? Because we know these things. So having those resources available also. How do we drip on Attain clients? I've got a meeting, it's a month out, but the CEO, the marketing director, and the sales director are going to be there. A month is a long time. They need to see a couple things based on the notes in my CRM of their pain or the challenges they're having that are relevant, not just some miscellaneous marketing piece. Sorry. So
No,
that's
has to be
care.
customized.
So there are the 4 different quadrants. So our challenge for the sales team and the marketing team is being very intentional on where do we want to spend our time, because we can't do it all.
And that's a great segue, Cal, to my next slide on content alignment. Team sales and marketing should be meeting, I would say weekly. Well, I've already said weekly, but monthly to talk about content strategy. I've got a meeting coming up. I'm seeing a major issue in the marketplace right now with pain. You know, one of our industries is nonprofits, and they're struggling with the government changes. And so this is the timely content for them. Now, of course, we'll adjust that weekly. If Cal says, I've got a really hot meeting and this is the primary need. Okay, well, we've got content for identifying pain. We've got a white paper, just like we dropped for lead sourcing. Or lead scoring. So making sure that you're creating a content library over time that is aligning with the goals is really important. Now, and I cannot stress this enough. 1, that messaging strategy that we establish together every 6 months, that needs to be the center of truth. So all of your content needs to reinforce that messaging strategy, number 1. Number 2, and I really believe this, the only team that should be putting content together is marketing. Again, I know publicly traded companies where the sales team was pulling together content because marketing didn't have time or the graphic designer was busy. And and they were using Canva. First of all, if you're in sales, you're probably not an expert in graphic design. If you are, God bless you, but you're probably not. Or you're probably not a grammatical expert, or you're probably not a writer. In marketing, we have people who are just writers, just graphic designers, just strategists. When I see Canva created documents that have different brand colors, different messages, things go off a little bit, there's different grammatical ways of phrasing things, it hurts the brand because you need that touch process and you need a consistent message in the touch process. So I am working with a publicly traded company, and somebody just decided their colors are blue and yellow, just throw some orange in there, like for fun. And that misaligns with the brand awareness for the organization, and it can actually hurt the company at a higher level. So make sure that there is one designated team for content that is planned in advance, and that they are available and have the resources to support sales as needed.
Yeah. And that's a great conflict spot right there. So I don't care, no offense, I don't care what my marketing team says. We're doing this thing and we're going here and these are the things. If I've just met with a VP of sales and the CEO and the HR director was supposed to be there and missed it, I'm going to send a video,
Mm-hmm.
be on the boat, and I'm going to talk to those points right there. That's not out of the process. But we need to agree that that's, hey, look.
Agree on the process.
Here,
Yeah.
agree on the process. When the salesperson gets in it, they know the little tiny details that are really impactful to do bonding and to build rapport with them. And that's got to be a little bit of a, that's always going to be a little chafing area.
Or collaborate. And, you know, Cal would call me up and say, I've got to send this video. It's timely. I get it, right? Because we've been collaborating. I know how important timeliness is to this sale. All right, Cal, well, here's 5 bullets I think we should talk about. Can you record this? Okay, we took a 15-minute call and now he has what he needs. Like, it doesn't have to be a full production every time. There's always a solution as long as everyone's aligned.
And it doesn't need to be terribly formal either. We got about 5 minutes to get
All
questions,
right. So
according to my timer. Oh, nice. Now I got to talk faster.
now you get to talk.
I get to do it.
Yeah.
So this is something, and I'll show you part of what my process was. And I think Susan is on here someplace, but to identify who is your target market. I've got, well, there are 4 here. The deer ran away apparently, which is great, but squirrels,
Moose.
rabbits, moose, and males. Someone said I couldn't use whales because they weren't mammals. That was a short conversation. But what size, what industry, what are clearly defined who I want to have and who I want to target? Will I take some others? Sure, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. My time is spent not on squirrels, a little on rabbit, mostly on moose, and they will come in. So most of our marketing messaging is targeted toward the moose audience. And yes, we have definitions and statistics and numbers behind all of that. We're very clear. It's not just a picture. So this was, I think, 10 or 14 years ago. Susan, my marketing person, said, Cal, we need to align our sales and marketing efforts. And I said, what do you mean? So I wrote down, this is nonsensical, I get it, but it made sense to me, it made sense to her, where the elephants, the deer, the rabbits, and squirrels coming from? How many do we need in order to hit our target? Where are they going to come from? Who are the personas and people we need to talk to? What are their pain points? What are the things, and it's written there, the things and the messaging that we need to get to those people? And it was a little crude. So fast forward next slide to about a month ago. She's going to meet me up in about 40 minutes. It came, again, this is a high level. So for example, in our sales mastery program, that's our biggest, most popular, impactful program. So we use Zoom Info. We have a cadence there. There are some other additions and sequences used with Zoom Intent. The buying committee, we have a thing called a buying committee, and we know what these messages are. Those are marketing strategies. What are the sales strategies? Well, there are very specific topics. We have cadences that go 1 through 9 in some cases, and the content is very strategic. One is a response from a marketing thing or someone saw me speak. So they get one of these, one of these, one of these, one of those, and then the opportunity to say goodbye and see you later. But it's pretty well choreographed, and I'm pretty sure I know exactly who my target market is. So again, there's a lot of code words in here. Cadence number 1, cadence number 9, sequence number 22. It's kind of like a football game. We know the opponent. We're not going to talk about Super Bowls right now, but we know the opponent, we know their strengths, we know what they need. So we're going to plan our playbook or our book appropriately. And we have a sales cookbook and a marketing cookbook, and they completely line up. If anybody wants to talk more about this nonsense, we're easy to find. So that's enough description of that.
And this is really step 2. And once you've implemented a CRM, getting I always like to map the cookbook on paper or in Excel first, because don't start with technology, start with the strategy and then build the technology around it. So this is really step 2. Turning this into automation is step 2 in your technology journey, but you got to plan it first and use it effectively first.
Well, I'm glad you brought that. All of those things after the first, they are generated from the CRM very intentionally.
Look at Donna, she's already on top of it. Does your marketing team have set KPIs?
I think she's rushing us. Hey, Jessica.
We're doing good. We're almost done.
I am trying to save you time for Q&A. And to
Thank
that
you.
point, for all of you who have questions, because this has been a mind-blowing presentation, please drop them in the Q&A section of the Zoom meeting. And the lovely Vicky Hart will be joining us shortly to facilitate Q&A. So let me share these results. Kind of across the middle again.
I'm not seeing the results.
Oh, sorry, hold on.
Okay, there we go.
That's because I have to hit the button.
You have to hit the button.
Not
Yeah,
quite the
it's
pro
hard.
you thought I was.
All right, it is across the middle. I'm really excited to see who these people are who have this nailed already. Maybe they should be up here giving us case study examples. Yeah. All right, fantastic. So, okay, so as just kind of a recap or as a final step, we want to make sure that we are constantly tracking and adjusting. So just because we had a meeting at 6 months, 6 months ago around our messaging doesn't mean we don't need to meet again to identify what's working and what's not. We should be looking at our KPIs weekly. We should be looking at our cookbooks and sales cookbooks weekly. We should and monthly. We should be doing regular results and reviewing results and defining strategies regularly. One great example I have is if you have a CRM that's effective with marketing automation, one great tool is Google Analytics Connector. It works really well with Salesforce, for example. We had a shared client that Cal and I had in medical device. One of their services was providing regulatory compliance consulting. One of them was prototype development for medical devices. We had a lot of major campaigns going from Google, from PPC, paid Google advertising, for both of those. But their regulatory was not converting. So we decided, okay, well, the logical step in the sales meeting is, all right, let's turn off the regulatory campaign and look for new strategies to bring in regulatory leads. Well, we looked at the CRM after that. We backtracked all of the leads that were, because we saw a lot of conversions from regulatory, like, man, we're spending a lot of money. Turns out people were coming from that regulatory ad, landing on the regulatory page, bouncing over to prototype and converting there. So if we had turned that campaign off without looking at the data, we would have lost a ton of prototype leads and had no idea why. So looking at the true journey throughout the whole process is really important. And that's why you want to constantly be looking at this data on a regular basis.
Yeah, the lead source to the deal closed. I just love that point you brought up. It makes all the difference in the world.
So we finally made a Cal with time to spare, 7 minutes for Q&A. And if anybody has additional questions for Cal or I, please feel free to email us. We would be happy to set up a strategy session or answer your questions if we don't get to them today. But Vicky, I will let you come on. And
I'm just going to say for the record, this sales girl loves her marketing team. I mean, I don't know what I would do without my marketing team, which is why I selfishly, I'm not going to lie, I kind of cherry picked this question out of the questions because I have this question too. How can sales provide feedback to marketing about lead quality and campaign effectiveness?
Cal,
No, they can't.
What?
They can't. No, I'm kidding. It needs
I was like, wait, what?
No, it just has to be a regular set, it has to be a habit. And sometimes it needs to be facilitated. I mean, Rachel and I have both facilitated a lot of those conversations. Sometimes it requires a third party. Usually it's done very effectively. And we were talking about this on our prep. There's got to be a senior decision driver within the company that is facilitating that. So we're not doing the finger pointing and the blame stuff.
And, having one person as a manager for so this can be dangerous or amazing. There's no in between. I'll often see VP of marketing and sales. Now, if the VP of marketing and sales was promoted from sales or promoted from marketing and they're nothing about sales, and they're like, oh, well, you're in charge of, you're doing a good job at marketing, so now you're in charge of sales. You're like, oh crap, I don't know. Having a true VP of marketing and sales that stands for both groups is the conduit to ensuring success, to identify behavior shifts or skill shifts or process shifts, because it's one of those three, right? And so that is really helpful if you can identify that person.
And it's also when you and I even have our sales meetings, Rachel, you're like, when we're looking at lists, you're like, so what was the list like? Like,
Yeah.
and the lead scoring is the thing that enables me to look and see that this is a good list, or it's not a good list, or we're in the right place or whatever, so.
So let me just
I
before,
love the lead scoring, but a lot of people aren't going to be sophisticated enough to
Right.
do lead scoring. So the communication between the parties, I hate to say can be lead scoring, but if that's what you got, use it, because we'll never know if they're good or
Yeah,
not
you have to.
if we don't talk to each other.
We will literally sit weekly and go through line by line the 20 leads that came in. Were they good? Why not? Were they good? Why not? That's a really important meeting to have.
what I was going to say before you ask the next question, Vicky, is some of our participants and some of our audience might be smaller and they might not have a full marketing team and they might not have a full sales team. It might even be just them. What I want those people to focus on is the process. Everything here, I mean, lead scoring is a kind of a varsity level thing, but you need to do all of this and have all of these systems so that when you get to the point where you want to do lead scoring, you have the data and the information and the processes in place to support that. So if you're thinking, well, I don't have all those people, just focus on the process. Focus on all the tactics that we talked about, because they are all very important to your solo success as well.
Yeah, well, we definitely had to grow into that, and it's, I don't want to say it's been amazing, but it's been amazing. But you got to walk before you run. So I had my own business too, and I did at one point, and you can't do it all at once. The next question is, isn't it the issue sales ops and sales management roles incentives are mismatched? Core account sales reps are not allowed to drive digital demand gen for MQL's SQL funnel quality. So I guess that's more of a statement that I'm going to allow you guys to debate.
I'm not sure I understand the question, the statement.
I think so. Again, I think that's definition of roles. Not allowed is always a red flag for me. If let's pretend Rachel and I are sales leader and marketing leader, as long as she knows, hey, my sales team, they're going to operate and do some of this stuff with some of your material. She's like, great, don't screw it up. And I may
We'll put
say,
your stuff on LinkedIn.
right. And I may say, can you put a little more pain in some of these things for the attorney segment? Right. I think we've got to have a little bit of freedom.
Just have
So
alignment on what you're doing.
I mean, yes, means to me that somebody's misunderstanding some rules, or they've got inappropriate rules. And I'm sure I just offended the question asker. Sorry about that.
But that's right on, Cal.
You nailed it. That's it that I see for questions.
Well, we're hitting the top of the hour. So
Talk about amazing time.
Donna, do you want to shout out next month?
oh yes, I did, and I put it in the
Okay.
I put it in the chat. But Laura Crothers will be joining us to talk about today's journey to effective leadership. We got a lot of cray going around us these days. I think leadership and how we do it is more important than ever. So I dropped the link in the chat, and join us in March to talk about leadership. So with that, Cal, Rachel, amazing. My head's spinning. I'm like, oh my God, I have to redo everything all over again.
Well, you over-prepared, Donna. We know that.
Yes, I am a tad of an over-preparer. So thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you again in March. And until that, we wish you fabulous accelerated growth where your marketing and sales teams are aligned, even if that's just you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.